Hey, yo, what a dip, y'all. Let's get right into it. Let me talk a little bit about how I got my ring at Thea to 2 trillion, as well as more just talking about how to get characters to this level of damage anyways, because I think that that's just something that more information needs to be out there on. You can then, you know, look forward in the video or look at the character codes to see exactly how my character in particular has got there. But this is about more this the general process of getting this far because it is a lot, right? We're at basically 2 weeks into the season. And honestly, I'm a little behind where I'd like to be, but I needed some time to relax and whatnot, which is important, by the way. Make sure you're actually having fun and playing the game. That's the number one tip I can give you. If you are not having fun when you're playing the game, you're not going to farm as efficiently. And it is going to take a lot of time and investment to really like push a character to this point. You don't just spawn at this damage level. You know what I mean? There are some builds that get here easier than others, but you won't just spawn here. It is a lot of FE to get this far. Now, the first thing to talk about when we talk about getting this far is the fact that you will be iterating over pretty much your entire character throughout the process of this. Very rarely do you look at a piece and go, it's a one and done piece, right? Even when you get unique items, right? Legendaries, they are rarely one and done the first time you purchase them, unless you just got it like that, or you got lucky with the corrosion, or like maybe you got a really lucky drop and was able to buy the top end version immediately. Example of this, of course, for me would be Searching Inspiration. I bought it, but it didn't have the corroded +2 on it. It just was a Searching Inspiration at first. Then I had to get one that was corroded for the 2 stacks to go to the next level for the character. And you're going to find that a lot with pretty much everything on your character, that you will be going to the next level at some point. So, for example, right, just kind of running down a long list of things that you will be finding your way going through, right? Going up in tiers on your gear, you probably experienced this going into profounds, even just upgrading your gear from T2 gear to T1 gear ends up mattering a lot, especially in your int rolls, any damage rolls, any crit rolls. If you're a dot build or anything that scales up affliction effect, going to T1 affliction effect mattered a ton, right? Going up in those tiers actually does make a pretty substantial jump in the performance of the gear, both offensively and defensively. And that's only on the gear. The only thing that, supersedes this rule a little bit is certain ultimate modifiers that just give so much power at even T3 or T2 that a regular fix at T1 isn't really cutting it, such as additional damage with spell burst, the hybrid fizz modifier added to two-hander, or really just any fizz weapon, this patch, etc. Next up, no, next up, you have like candles, right? At first, your candles are going to be things that fill in necessary stats, maybe some CDR, some movement speed, some LE res, etc. But eventually, you're going to want candles with additional damage, additional cold damage, additional fire damage, etc. Or you want candles with supports on them, grudge, cataclysm, increased critical damage increase, right? All of these are options for ways to bolster your damage in that slot to the point where, I mean, your candles can really offer in the ballpark of 30, 40, maybe even 50% more damage in some cases, or defensive, right? Because I talk a lot about damage in this video, but it's worth noting that deep space is also a thing where defenses are going to really matter. In fact, actually, the damage check for deep space this season is substantially lower, and I'm mostly pushing damage to prepare for SS20, right? But you will need defenses to run those maps. So getting damage in some places will help you open up defenses in others, or vice versa. Next space, you got your slates, which, a good way to think about slates, in case you're ever wondering, like, are my slates in the right place? Early on, it's just about, sticking slates in and branding them, which I have something coming out talking about that in the near future. But more importantly, when you're actually pushing it up, is that you're really trying to get the most out of each like spot on the board that they take, right? And that's kind of the weakness and the strength of the standard Tetris pieces. They are, 4 slots, but they can have 5 very powerful modifiers on it. And if you're, you know, that means that in theory, at a perfect slate of 5 out of 5, that slate is zero point 0.8 spaces per multiplier that it offers, which is absurd, right? Considering a Corner of Divinity, a very sought after piece, especially for weird builds or things that cannot combine the two mods that they want easily, is only a 1.5 times multiplier, or 1.5 slots used per multiplier. And so if you're in that 1.5 and below range, your slates are really efficient, right? And that's really important. The more efficient they get, the better, and that's where you're going to spend a lot of money at. Getting better pedigrees, etc. Getting prairie, sparks of moth flame. If you're really feeling it, you can get a star red. But yeah, that's on you, right? And then you've got your hero memories, which you start out with purples and then you go to orange. And at some point you have to go to red. They just offer that much more stats. It looks like it sucks. Don't worry. It's not that bad the longer you wait, but you definitely want to get it done because you need the stat increase it provides, right? So on, so forth, especially the extra trait level. Depending on your character, that extra trait level could really make a big difference to the point where you might even want to get a +2 hero trait level memory to get that trait up to level 5 and really crank through it, right? That's a character specific thing. For me, not that important, but it might be for you, right? Then you have your exclusive supports, which, if you didn't know, leveling those from 1 to 5 through duplicates and inspiration essence is literally a 20% more multiplier per one that you use on your main skill, right? So for this build, obviously, I run both Ice Seal and Cascade. At level 5, they both provide 20% more damage. In other words, that's 44% more damage just for leveling those two up. That's important. You got to really dot your I's and cross your T's, which that was dotting the I's. And if times across the T's, you need to make sure that you get good rarity on them, which I have not finished that up yet because it's not as much of an increase as the leveling is and other things that I've been working on. But, getting T1 or T0 rolls, just like on your gear, matters a decent bit for improving the efficiency of the slot. And while I'm talking about the exclusive sports, I might as well add in activation mediums that you're using follow the same principle. The rolls do start to matter, right? Especially burst activation. I looked into it. It's like 15% damage increase for me to go from my current roll to a decent-ish T0. Like there's a pretty big gap to jump there in terms of power level. And then there's still stuff like we haven't even gotten through everything, right? In terms of, there's priceless bases, especially with the new imprinting system. If you've already gone way too ham on your mediocre priceless base, at some point the base cost plus 2 KFE is going to be really worth it for the extra 8, 10, 12% that it can offer you depending on what you need. Like for me, +1 focus blessing is going to offer a decent little bit when I get there. I just have to get there, right? Or dream talking. If you don't have 3 strong dream talking affixes on, that's going to be a thing that's going to become more and more cost efficient for you to solve at some point. At some point, the gambling on it's brutal, but once it fixes itself, it's beautiful, right? You've got blending, whether that be for really strong core talents or those really, really strong hero traits that you can copulate. For me, I want my 60.2. I want predicted hope. I want the insane potential 64% more damage that it's going to provide me. There's a lot of power in that slot that I don't even have yet. There's other things for me to roll on before I get to that. But that you see where there's so much power to be gained there. And we haven't even gotten into, having strong, unique setups that scale damage, such as, surging and the burst activation stuff, or lone walkers and aura effect, attribute stackers through Ralphs, or the strength stacking one as well. Other blessing stacking items, blight for all of the deterioration based characters out there, right? There's so many strong avenues of scaling your character push into. And last but certainly not least would be Destinies. Getting your microfates and your kismets taken care of so that you're just getting those huge multipliers. Even just adding int microfates, or main stat microfates rather, int is my main stat, but main stat microfates into your tree might actually yield you a pretty good amount of damage over whatever's in your pact spirit tree initially, especially the worse your pets are. This is something I remember saying in Arcana, and it's starting to really come true now as more people are starting to see it, that the fate, especially microfates, are a great way to shore up the fact that some people just have weaker pets. You just replace the bad parts of your pets with good nodes for your character. And that's really good. That's a system that's definitely needed to help close the gap, because at some point most of your value in your pack tree, outside of like a couple major nodes in particular, is really going to come down to good use of micro fates, kismets, and undetermined fates to really send it. I'm ignoring medium fates because those are most of it more a thing that you upgrade out of, but still, you know what I mean? They're still worth having in there. And now you might have listened to all of that and been like, my goodness, that's a lot. The important thing is that you don't need to do it all at once, right? Like I said, it's iterating through parts of your character. It's putting money into one aspect of your character until you've determined that like it mathematically is just not going to improve your character that much for how much it's going to cost you. And note that I say mathematically, I'm talking about like cost per FE or cost per sanity. Maybe it's just no longer worth the sanity loss for you to chase that upgrade right now. Maybe you need a mental refresher to go chase something that's a little bit more guaranteed, even if it's a little bit less efficient. That's something that I did this go around, is I definitely delayed upgrading my ultimate modifiers just because it was driving me insane how often I could whiff on those compared to just, farming 5k FE so I could buy my lone walkers, right? It just, sometimes you need that sanity check instead, right? If you need the sanity, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. That is a real factor in these conversations that you should definitely take note of. But it's just about being willing to iterate step by step over your character in each aspect that's relevant possible. Now, with all that said, I'm going to go in game and then show you guys my character. Just quick one through so you can see where we're at. This is the last update. And then also, hopefully by the time you're watching this video, I'll have a proper written guide up for the character getting to this state. Mostly just because everything, even honestly like 2 days before now worth of progression, is not necessary in a guide, so to speak. It is just me again doing this iterative cycling as I push up the character's numbers to hit my goals, right? Okay, now you'll see on the screen here, it's not 2 trillion. It's a little because it's like spiky and whatnot. I'm too lazy to get the proper recording, and there's some small like changes I've made to my character for speed that I would have to undo to get the damage number to be right. Just know it's in the ballpark of 2 trillion that we do, and it's a little inconsistent because, well, I'm a quadruple damage based setup that is also utilizing winter now. Wait, that's not winter, this is winter, which is a little unreliable. It's a lot, it's annoying, but overall the character's really coming along. There's a couple things to highlight out, right? One, my gear is full T1 at this point. This took a little bit, and I even like T0 a little bit. I have some defining to do, but I pushed up the T0s there just to like push the damage a little bit further. I mentioned lone walkers earlier because I did buy lone walkers. Unfortunately, the corrosion did not hit, and instead I just I gained recover mana. I have no idea how useful this really is, but I recover mana. It is what it is. We have the corrupted Israfels and the corrupted surging. We have a lot of sealed mana stuff. You'll notice it's because I do in fact just have a ridiculous amount of sealed mana, which I believe currently I don't actually need one of these rolls. This is relevant, by the way, because I'm thinking about cutting the neck one for R effect. And the only reason I haven't is because there is a version of the setup that I've been considering where I drop precise ice view for specifically an energy fortress. Right, I just put this in here and you'll see that it lets me fit in all of this on my mana. And you might be thinking, oh, you don't have restraint there, you won't need all that. Yeah, but what's about to happen soon is that I'm going to start buying like the aura supports, because I mentioned the exclusive supports, right? You think about like the cascades and the ice seal and a high rarity freezing point, but I'm talking about I want like stand as one, right? Stuff like this. Or there's another one, right? If I just go ahead and go by precise, you can see precise selfishness. This is just our effect that comes with a little bit of attacks, right, on my reservations. And that's what we're going to be starting to get into here soon, and that's going to start to add to the cost of the needs for sealed mana compensation. But otherwise, a lot of the rest of this character looks very similar. It's just iterating over fixes, because the last time you saw this, there's a lot of T2s, and now I just have bases that need to be replaced in this really, really bad dream talking. I'm also apparently missing a dream talking. I forgot about that. Interesting. All right. Other than that, though, I did some pedigree upgrades, some Slate upgrades. I got a better pedigree finally. It's insane to think I got a better pedigree than what I already had, but this one obviously is better. I got me a corner so I can fit in a prairie. I still have my sparks. Right, this is a lot of this is a lot of damage to be like pushing in. Which, by the way, I talked about slot efficiency. Right, this is what makes something like sparks so strong. Right, this is a one slotter for 1, 2, 3, 4 of my multipliers. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rather, I accidentally hovered that wrong. Or this one even here was 1 for 1, even though 1 for 1's pretty strong. I will probably have something coming out soon talking about how I made these slates. You can look at like this slate here is a perfect. It's 4 stats that are perfect. And this 5th one needs to be rolled. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet. Same thing here, but this is technically even a damage mod. But this is 4 perfect mods again, which this is a lot more deterministic than you would think it is. Funnily enough, and I will talk about how I came to be that at a different time. No, divinity packs are your best friend. Right? There's some tree optimization to be done. Who knows? So the actual thing to show about the character, by the way, is if you're watching on stream at any given time, which that link is in the description, you'll see me running around with different aura setups or different amounts of life, or even seeing it in the clips when you're like watching the video. And it's those because a lot of the time I've been playing with swiftness and over frigid domain, or I might like mess around with other stuff, literally just to like make myself faster because my damage is so excessive in what I've been farming, which is deep space canvas and profound maps primarily. I'm not doing deep space. I will tell you how to do deep space on this character very quickly in case you're curious. The answer is Heart of Magic. Replace your weaker ring. Keep one ring that is like actually a curse on hit ring, and replace your weaker ring with a let me show you. There's a modifier when you corrode an item. Don't worry, I can't accidentally corrode this ring. I don't have the resource for it on me. Chaos. Oh, not chaos. Mutation. You can see here this like list of implicits you can get. There's immune to trauma and wilt here. This is really strong. This allows you to ignore some of the deep space modifiers. The rot modifier and the maim modifier are ignored by this corruption implicit. That's very strong. And then you just need to get a way to deal with elemental ailments, which can be done via a dual kismet. It's a very expensive dual kismet, but it can be done there, right? If you're curious which one I'm talking about, that would be, I believe it's called Butterfly in a Bottle. Yeah, no, Butterfly in a Bottle is the other side. It's the 3 damaging ones. Here we go. Immune to elemental ailments. Fish in a cage. My bad. Also, Burn in a Pond, which Burn in a Pond's job can be done instead of being done by this kismet, it can be done via a belt. Belts, when they are corroded, corrode to the same thing, and so you can use like a compensatory life. For example, especially with the setup I'm currently running where I am not reserving my life at all. Right, let me show you. If I put a belt in here, you can see mutation. Where's it at? Immune to crowd control effects. Freeze, paralysis, weaken, frostbite. This is actually very nice for a number of things. That's also like a very strong set of modifiers to be immune to. Trust me, the modifier pool for deep space is really annoying. But you can play on like mostly unreserved life to not be on low life, and use something like compensatory life to get your spell amp, especially instead of lone walkers, for example. And then these are pretty cheap at this point, so you could just corrode these on repeat until it hits, and be ballin'. Right, that's 100% an option. Wanted to see what. Sometimes these corrode really nicely. Oh, this just levels on spell amp. Nice. At which point, obviously, you would not need these because, well, spell amp would already be on you, and you can consider something else. But the point still stands. That's a way to get there. Kismets. That's what I'd be looking at these days, as just getting corroded uniques to get there early. However, I don't care enough. I'm not interested in doing that part of my character for something that has been proven, that has been looking really expensive and inefficient from when my friends have been running it. It's what it is. I think that's everything to cover about this character. If you seeing this and the build guide is not quite up, it's because I needed a little bit longer to finish writing some stuff down. So I'm trying to be thorough about the creation of it this time, because I did a really good job with the Ring of Ice Gem 1 build, but I forgot to account for as much as possible anyways the removal of build codes going between seasons, and that left a couple things kind of out to dry that I've been thinking about how to address a little bit better. But otherwise, for the duration of the season, the build codes present, in the descriptions of the videos or in my build sheet will be good enough for keeping up with the character while I finish polishing up the guide so that this can be used in future seasons as well. And hopefully we'll get a builder so that this gets infinitely easier. Oh my god. Anyways, that's everything for me. It's a bit of a longer one than I would have liked, but I had to get a lot of information out. It's been a little bit since I thought about this stuff. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or in my Discord or in my Twitch stream. All of the above, I will get to you. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.